It's not about religion. Religion is just a cover. It's really about keeping people divided. And Britain was very good at that. As an empire, they did it all over the world. They're still doing it among Native people in Canada. Set the Irish at each other's throats over whether or not Jesus is in the communion wafer or not, literally, or whether it's just a symbol. So the Orange Order in Canada, that's why there aren't a lot of Irish Catholics in Canada. They all got channeled down to the States when they came over on the coffin ships, like my great-grandfather did, Daniel O'Neill from Ireland. His whole family was dead on the ship when they arrived in Montreal. But as a Catholic, he had to become an Anglican or he'd get shipped down south, where they had all the cheap Irish laborers working on the Erie Canal and the railways and dying en masse. So yeah, the Orange Order had a lot of influence in Canada, and I think it still does. There's an Orange Lodge right downtown near the Vancouver Club. And so these old cults kind of overlap, but yeah.
JC wants to know, how do I view the actual court documents on the International Court's website?
Well, the old court case from about Ratzinger, some of it is still up. Our site got destroyed, not surprisingly, soon after the case came out. This is the trouble with trusting people, because the very people who we were trusting to build the site, in fact, were operatives who destroyed the whole thing. We had to reconstruct it. Go to murderbydecree.com under ITCCS archives, videos, and and ITCCS updates, old enough ones. You'll see those records, basic records. We don't have court records yet about this case against the present guy in Rome, because it hasn't happened yet, but we intend to post as much of it publicly as possible and do a more secure job this time. Get it out to many sites, we were learning the ropes at that point. You live and learn. Your best teacher is your last mistake, as they say, right? So,
Ray J, has anyone tried to expose this pre-early 20th century? Are there any records?
Good question. That's a big issue I can't really answer right now, but I know a lot of the church reform movements, like the Reformation and all that, and other groups that split away from the churches, we're always talking about these crimes, the satanic nature of the Church of Rome and that. So it's out there. It's just like with the evidence about the residential school crimes, we had to dig around. We had to go to families. You can't rely on the official archives. Oh, and let me just put in a little thing about that. In our work, we found something the British Colonial Office brought in right after World War II. It's called the Legacy Files. Now, look this up in the Guardian newspaper around 2013. They ran a series of articles on this. After World War II, they went through all the colonial records, and any reporting of a crime by Crown officials, whether it's Indian schools in Canada, friendly fire in World War II, like killed my uncle, any of the stuff, like the crimes in Africa against the Mau Mau or the colonial wars, that was not only swabbed out, but a replacement file was put in its place with a false history. So you can't rely on official records ever, like in the Vatican, because they've all been not only swabbed, but actually replaced with a false history, a false narrative, like what you're getting in Canada now about genocide in Canada. So I've seen this happen over 30 years. I've seen how it happens. All of our stuff swabbed off and replaced with this false narrative about, well, we don't know if there were mass graves. Oh, I think only about 3,000 children died. That's the British legacy file system. So this was at the highest level of the Vatican and the British Empire that this replacement history came about. So you got to rely on your own contacts and your own stuff you dig up on the ground, right?
Michelle, is it mainly men involved in the Ninth Circle, or women too?
Most, from all the records and the evidence I've seen and the testimonies I've listened to, it's primarily men. Women are involved, like for example, the nuns at this monastery, which we'll mention in Germany. I don't want to give the name yet, but I can say the religious order. It was a group of nuns called, hold on, the Missionary Sisters, Servants of the Holy Spirit, SSP. And these nuns were taking blood from children, locking children in cages. They were the support group for the Ninth Circle ceremonies. So yeah, definitely women in the church and nuns play a big role in this, but also female participants. Some of the Dutch royal family members and the others, there have been women reported at these things.
Oh, I found these women. Let's, I've got a picture of them here, I think. Let's see.
And
Up.
and don't forget, Anne-Marie van Blienburg took part, as did Toos and others. Part of your expectation as a victim is also to kill children. So I mean, you know, it's these crimes are just required of everybody, male or female.
That's the order of those women presently. I'm not alleging they're involved, but that's the picture that's available.
Yep.
All right, so here's the next question. Oh, it's about the tunnels that you referenced earlier. Dawn wants to know, have any of the tunnels ever been investigated?
Yep, we've been in tunnel. I've been in one myself. They're beneath.
How did you get in one of them?
Oh, as part of our cleanup operation we shut it. I wasn't there in Montreal when they shut down the ceremony, but we arrived late and this was talked about years ago on our site. They had just left the place, and this was in the Netherlands at one of the places Toos had pointed out. We went in, there was a ceremony that had within the day, there was stuff literally still warm. They cleaned it up, there was still blood around. And so it was part of a extensive tunnel system under this chateau, which I don't want to mention because it's also involved in the present investigation. But no, I mean, you know, often any big city has these places. Just talk to city workers, talk to the sewer workers or others, and they can tell you.
Ray J wants to know if you've had any new threats targeted at you.
I haven't had someone come to my face and say what happened. Nothing else has happened. And my friend Joseph, who's one of my bodyguards, said, well, Kev, he has kind of gallows humor. He said, maybe this is the silence before the storm, right? And so I'm doing okay still, folks, day by day. You know, you go moment by moment in this work, right?
Do you want to remind the viewers what the last threat was to you?
Oh, yeah. I had just done a committal service at a cemetery in Canada. And Joseph had gone off to the washroom, and black limousine pulls up. Two guys get out. One stands by the limousine. The other walks over, says to me, if you carry on in this case, we're going to do to you what we do to those children. Turned around and left quick. And I called out to him, don't I know you from somewhere? Because sure enough, he had been one of the Knights of Columbus goons who had shut down one of our protests at Toronto Catholic Church, St. Michael's Cathedral in downtown Toronto. So he was, he had older, this happened in 2008, my first encounter with him, but same guys, Catholic goon squad. I mean, you know, these goon squads have beaten up our people. You know, they're just thugs, and they'll do anything. So yeah, I didn't take it lightly.
So Denise wants to know, why are the elites so driven to get rid of the indigenous peoples of this planet?
All of our indigenous people, my ancestors, got targeted in the same way because they're tied to the earth, gives them a power that this satanic force wants to harvest. I mean, you could say the whole corporate system today, the corporatocracy, is harvesting the energy of the earth. Our lives as people, the earth, and not just through strip mining and that, but just literally sucking the energy of Mother Earth. And indigenous people are in touch with that. And as a matter of fact, when I've done sweat lodges with some of my relatives and others, and natives on the West Coast, they say the reason all the trees are cut down is the trees to them represented the tie with the other level. Well, you described it as levels of heaven, but levels of reality. The tree was a communicator from those realms to the people. That's why they venerated trees. They never cut them down except occasionally. But also, when we did our investigation, some of these native elders went and talked to the trees. They said the roots tell us where these children are buried, right? So the people who were first targeted in these death camps were people like William Coombs, Harriet Nahani. They were the sacred lineage, the spirit dancers who have this understanding. They were the first to be targeted and wiped out, just like the elders, by this empire that spread all over the planet. And so I think in general terms, that's why, but they're great cash cows like they still are. Native people were used and part of the whole genocidal agenda. You just wipe out anyone. They treated Native people in the Americas just like they treated religious dissidents or heretics, like my Huguenot ancestors in France. They were treated the same way. They either convert or they die. As a matter of fact, Archbishop Duryea, he was the Jesuit who set up the model for the residential schools in Canada. He said, he had an infamous quote, "Convert a third, kill a third, deport a third." That was the Vatican solution. And guess how many people died in Ireland during the so-called potato famine? A third, and a third deported, immigrated to America. So it's the same formula all over, and it's aimed at our indigenous roots that we still carry. At a cellular level, we do.
I read an excellent book called The History of the Irish Race, which detailed the potato famine, and it was really eye-opening. All right, so Deborah wants to know, Kevin, for those who do not know, how many churches have been destroyed in Canada?
Do you mean burned? Like burned recently? Our count is, I think the latest count was somewhere around 28 in the last few years. It's even higher in other countries. Chile, they've torched a lot of the Mapuche Indians there. Just before Bergoglio showed up, they were torching Catholic churches because, A, they were stealing their land, and a lot of the deeds were in the church, and they were also moving their kids around and grabbing them and using them right out of the church. So it's a defense measure by Native people. You see it happening in Canada, mostly on distant reservations, where they go into the Catholic Church. They either tell the priest to get out and take it over, or if he won't get out, they just burn the church. And like I say, it's how they've always defended themselves, those kind of actions.
I just got to make it clear for legal reasons, we're not advocating any violence or burning of churches. All right, so Dawn wants to know, is every faith involved in this?
I can't speak for every faith, but I just know the major religions all have been named as having practices remarkably similar to the Ninth Circle, including the Mormons who we talked about last time, right? Mirror image, right?
All right, let me go to the next question. I'll answer this one. Jade, is this all connected to Bohemian Grove? We just interviewed ex-Satanist Zachary King a few days ago, who went to Bohemian Grove, and he's exposing that. I would refer you to watch that podcast, Jade. Do you have anything to add on Bohemian Grove, Kevin, or is that out of your remit?
No. I mean, that hasn't been my primary focus, but I'll let others comment on that.
Caesar wants to know, have you had many spiritual attacks by demon spirits, being a great adversary to the demonic?
Personally? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, like in 2021, when when I was poisoned in the summer in Ontario, there was an accompanying psychic attack, energetic attack. And it's happened a number of times right after I was fired. I got protection early on, fortunately, or probably wouldn't still be here. But the thing that those attacks do is they give you an insight. You have contact with the thing, right? And each time that's happened, I've become more aware of it, right? More aware of its presence and how it operates. You can almost see it. Well, I do see it in dreams, what it looks like. And so, yeah, I don't know. I was just speaking for myself, but.
Lindsay wants to know, with the court case, will it be on TV worldwide?
It'll be on our media. Naturally, it won't be covered on TV. I'll be surprised if we're even able to get broadcast anywhere, considering the level of sabotage and how much they don't want this stuff coming out. So it might have to be something like filmed and then broadcast later. I don't know yet. I don't handle the technical end of that, or security end, but yeah, hopefully.
What are your thoughts on reports of uncorrupted bodies of so-called saints and other religious?
Well, I don't believe in saints. I mean, the word saint, don't forget, Vatican is energy reversal. So when they say God, they mean Satan. When they say saint, they mean somebody who's demonic. Anyone who's called a saint in the Church of Rome is somebody who served the interests of not only the Vatican, but the Ninth Circle. And here's a beautiful example. Pope Francis Jorge Bergoglio comes to America in 2017 and praises and beatifies, makes a saint, Junipero Serra, who worked to death hundreds of thousands of California Indians. Okay, so that's a saintly thing. We're inspired by his zeal, Bergoglio said. Okay, so that's what a saint is. So I don't go by any of that nomenclature. Uncorrupted bodies, I mean, it's the same BS you get it's the myth, right? Pump into people's heads that this is some kind of divine institution, as if you can have such a thing, right?
On the subject of saints, what does Kevin think of the up and coming, the 16-year-old boy picked for sainthood?
Personally,
is it a PR thing?
My personal opinion. Of course it's PR. I mean, you know, if you talk about saying to somebody who's good and doing God's will, I meet those people all the time, you know, really good souled people. And they're not elevated. They don't have to be elevated. Like my native relatives would always say, you can never spot the real leader because he's invisible. He's always serving the people. He's always out there. He's always the poorest. You never see him or hear him. The ones you see are the people achieving exactly the opposite purpose. That's kind of my view of that whole issue, right?
Caesar wants to know, why and when did Protestant preachers start bowing down to Rome? For instance, Billy Graham.
It started in a big way, like I said, at Vatican II, the ecumenical thrust in 1962. But, you know, there's a famous thing too in the JF. Remember when John Kennedy was running for the Democratic nomination in 1960, and he didn't have any standing in any of the Protestant states like West Virginia and that. The Catholic Archbishop went to all of the Protestant ministers, these are often Black Baptist churches, and paid them a few $1,000 each to endorse JFK, the Catholic, for president. That kind of thing goes on constantly with all the churches, right? And those direct payoffs, the integration now of the World Council of Churches with the Vatican, you know, it's just money, and it's been going on a long time, I'm sure, not just since 1962, but that was when it really heated up.
Secret Watcher, are all English monarchs expected to become a ninth circle? And what about their wives? Are they involved, or would they know?
The connection goes back a long way with the monarchy, all the monarchies of Europe. Like we said, we saw Charles and Philip and these others at these events. So yeah, they're integrated, just like Elizabeth agreed to in Hollywood in 2010. They're integrated now. Different masks, same practice. So, and yeah, they take part, you know, these people always bring their relatives, and it's part of the way to blackmail them too. You bring them along, then they're in, they won't talk, right?
Is there any relevance to the flip from German Ratzinger as Pope to present American Leo?
Well, I've talked a lot about that, but don't forget, Leo isn't really an American. He was born there. He's got dual citizenship, Peruvian and American, and he's done all of his work in Peru. So they say American, just, it's politics now. You know, it's about Trump and, you know, trying to use that as a lever to influence the Vatican bank, like, or maybe he's with China, who knows? Like, it's all a guess game at that level of power. But yeah, I mean, that's in a nutshell.
Have you seen any signs from Jesus that he is pleased with your path and sacrifices?
Not personally. He hasn't appeared to me or anything like that. Not even in a dream. Not even in a dream, which is kind of disappointing. Although I'll tell you something. I never viewed him as my savior and Lord. I viewed him as a brother. Okay, I've always felt like a spiritual brother with him. And I see him all the time. And all these people who have the courage to come with us and confront people with nothing, people like Bingo and Harriet and William, who, you know, all those people who fell in the fight. I see him embodied in them, and I don't think we should look for him too far away. You know, we should look for him in our neighbors. That's where he said, you know, to find us he said to find me in the, you know, in Matthew 25, that which you do for the least of my people, you do for me. I'm there. That's the only place he ever in the Bible said he was going to be, you know, besides heaven. He said, in the poorest, in the most struggling, that's where you'll find me. So that's where you should go seek him, I think.
Steve wants to know, why are the general public, and specifically Christians, so indifferent about the crimes and pure evil of the Vatican, even when information is blatant and published? And this shocks me, Steve, because it's, you know, it's got one of the biggest PDF file rings in the world, and yet how the public accept them, knowing that, is just beyond me.
I don't think they are indifferent. I mean, lots of people all the time are non-indifferent. They like to create the impression that people are apathetic because that just gets everyone demoralized and you won't do anything. I walked into Pro Cathedral in Dublin, heart of the Catholic world, 23 people on a Sunday morning where there's 500 seating. I see that in Papist churches all over the world, right? So people are voting with their feet, but they got the money to make themselves look like anything. They can convince you that they've got billions of loyal followers, right? And you'll believe it. The problem isn't that. It isn't indifference. It's the feeling of isolation. that you're all on your own, you can't do anything, and you're not used to acting. When in your life have you ever had to confront evil to its face? This is a new thing for people, and that's why we're showing you how to do it. We're leading the way. We're leading by example. Now it's time to get on board with us and not just watch this, right?
Oh, here's a nice comment for you from Barl. I have recently read Kevin's books, links in the description box, folks. The Murder of Children in Canada and the book about the Catholic Church corruption. Recommended reading. It is shocking.
Yeah.
Nice one, Barl.
That's a recent one.
Do you think Princess Diana was aware of the Ninth Circle?
Oh yeah, everyone at that level knows. You know, I would be very surprised if she wasn't.
Has Kevin had any contact collaboration with Cardinal Vigano? Is it?
No, I did get not from him, but right after I did the exorcism, this was interesting in Rome. I got a confidential message from the Cardinal of Genoa, and I'm trying to remember who the guy was at the time, but he wanted to talk to me. And after that, he went silent because, you know, there is a faction, like I mentioned, how Bergoglio levered out Ratzinger through the Spanish ambassador. They want to use our stuff all the time to get at their opponents within the church. So yeah, you can play groups up, like, you know how they always divide and conquer us. We can do the same with them. Well, divide, maybe not conquer at this point, but so no, I haven't had contact with that. And I'm kind of wary about people who talk about reforming the church, because when you're part of it, when you're a cardinal, you know it. You've had to approve to this stuff or you wouldn't still be a cardinal. You know, you don't survive by challenging the church, and you're a member already. Like I said, you're on the red list, you're approved, you're in.
Janka's wondering about Scandinavian monarchs' involvement in the Ninth Circle.
Unfortunately, no, but one of the places I'm going in Europe is Sweden. And because we're working with the Sami indigenous people in setting up their courts for the same genocidal practices on them that we've documented in Canada and elsewhere. We're also working with the common law court system in Sweden to bring some cases. So if you live in Sweden, be sure to contact me and I'll connect you with those folks.
Andrew wants to know whether you've been to France, the Paris Sacré-Cœur bars on the outside of the nuns' quarters, strange, on 3rd and 2nd floor, not ground level, bad vibe.
Yeah, well, I mean, these churches have long histories of these criminal practices, so of course there are going to be bars in the window, right? No, I always got a weird. Somebody said to me once, okay, you know the Templars. This is like a little side note. It's kind of amusing. The Templars, the Grand Master of the Templars was a guy called Jacques de Molay, and when the Vatican and the French king wanted to get the Templars' money, they wiped them all out in one night, and they took the Grand Master. And you know the upside down image in the tarot cards? This is where they get that image of the hanging man upside down. They hung Jacques de Molay upside down outside Notre Dame and burned him alive with the other Templar leaders. Somebody said to me, Kev, I've had a dream that you're the reincarnation of Jacques de Molay. And I said, uh-oh. I mean, I'm going to get barbecued one day. But he said, no, go to Notre Dame and see what you think. So I went to Notre Dame. This has happened before I even went to Paris. When I'm there, I thought, okay, let's wander over. And I did get a really creepy vibe, I'm telling you. My hair was standing up on my back when I was standing outside Notre Dame. And maybe it's because of the stuff I've read in that, but it seemed like something else. It seemed like something reaching out. Maybe it was my Huguenot ancestors from France who got, you know, wiped out. But I don't know. Yeah, that's me. That's me outside the oldest Catholic church in Europe, outside Italy. And I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it's in Utrecht, Holland. It's somewhere in Holland. And we posted the eviction notice outside, like on the order against the Catholic Church to vacate, that we posted all over the world. Toast was with me that day as well. Yeah. That's kind of remind me that I'm coming to Europe, Canada, and then the US, and then over to Europe in the fall. And please book me in to wherever you can and be in touch with us, and we'll carry this on. The best kind of contact is face-to-face in your community. I don't know if you, good. That's one of these places where the Ninth Circle operates in Canada. The Nanaimo Indian Hospital, just down the road from where I used to live, and where a lot of the stuff came out. They would bring native kids in here for experimental purposes, organ removal. We've had a lot of grisly stuff described. There's sterilization procedures began there, and the rituals where a lot of kids were used.
Kat wants to know, can viewers go with you on these excursions?
In order to accompany us, there has to be a vetting process. We have to know who you are. There's a training process. You can't just kind of wander in with a camera and say, hey, cool. You got to be trained to do this stuff. And so we view it, there's different circles. I mean, the outer circle, education support, more of an inner circle training, and then the people who actually do it. These are professionals, the ones we rely on. These are like, I don't want to say Joseph, my bodyguard here. I don't want to say what former military he's in, but he is, and he's trained in everything. And you need people like that to do these things. It's not just kind of a lark. It's serious stuff. You got to be able to defend yourself.
Has the Vatican been hiding our true history?
That's its purpose.
Why are they so good at covering this stuff up?
They've got the money, they've got the power, they've got our incredulity, or is it credulity? I always confuse those words. Anyway, desire not to believe. But that's, like I say, that's disintegrating. I see it coming apart. So take hope.
All right, we are almost at 2 hours, folks. We've answered nearly all of your questions. There are a load of questions unanswered because they were answered in previous episodes, and we don't like to ask Kevin the same question. So go over the previous episodes. I think we're about this must be episode number 6 by now.
6.
And then there's a lot more information in Kevin's books as well. So his links are down there. Is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion, Kevin?
Well, just contact me. And don't forget what I said at the beginning of the show. We operate out of our own sovereign jurisdiction. So we go into an area like Canada, we're under the sovereign jurisdiction of the Republic of Canada. That always keeps the cops away. They always honor that. We're doing the same thing in England. The Republic movement in England is actually taken off. We're going to have some meetings about it when I'm there. We've got people all over the Midlands and the South and Scotland who are working on this together. So we're going to say, okay, and like I say, I have invited and will be inviting Charles Windsor to a public debate about why he needs to step down and why he's a convicted criminal, and we'll show him all the evidence. And we're not after him personally. This is not threatening him. It's the institution. I'm sure he's kind of a victim in his own way, but, raised in this stuff. But the institution is the problem. It needs to come down and reestablish the republic the English people once had in 1649. And then they made it a crime of treason to reestablish the monarchy. So it's a de facto, not a de jure power, and we're taking back the power because we need to stop these crimes. That's the point, right?
Can you invite Keir Starmer as well to something like this? Because he's the most despised prime minister in the history of prime ministers right now.
I'll copy him. How's that? We'll have everybody there. Why not? Hold it in downtown.
So Kevin has boldly provided his email address. It is on the screen. It's also hidden from history1@gmail.com. If you guys want to communicate with him directly.
Yeah, and I just want to say, literally, you get involved with this, we'll save children's lives. Because if we don't do it, if we don't take this action, we're complicit by not acting. So please keep that in your mind and heart.
All right, Kevin, I'm going to let you go on and have a good day, and I shall close the show. Thank you, my friend.
See y'all later. Thank you,
Take care,
Shaun.
brother. Cheers. Bye-bye. All right, what a phenomenal show, folks. Please don't forget to support Kevin through his links, and everybody who's been getting the book seems to have really enjoyed it. Email is on the screen. If you missed part 1 with the ex-Satanist Zachary King that we did a few days ago, check it out. It ties into this stuff. Bohemian Grove, the Illuminati. And Zachary is coming back this week. I've just had an email from him today. We are just ironing out the final details. And what else have we got? Ron's at arrest, and he's going to be coming back with a vengeance on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We have got still Epstein's niece, Anya Wick. I've been speaking to Anya. She's been having a rest as well, but should be coming in strong soon. We have got our MK Ultra survivor, Annalie Cummings, on June 16th. And I am going to endeavor to go through all my emails and get some new guests coming on in the next couple of days and getting more coverage of this, World War III possibility escalation, Russia, Ukraine, which is a story I'm absolutely fascinated with because it really affects us all. But thank you for your questions, folks. Many of your questions were answered previously, and Kevin has also asked me to not ask him any questions that do not relate to what he's talking about. So some questions were a bit removed from what he was talking about. So we didn't want to put him under that burden. All right, but thank you for all your questions. You've really helped steer the conversation this evening. It's been absolutely fascinating. Knife Circle, one of my favorite subjects. This has certainly been one of my favorite episodes. Have a great rest of your weekends, folks.